Hello, everyone. My name is always Asmal. Welcome to another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat, a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The main aim of the show is to show that there's more than one way to be successful other than climbing the corporate ladder. Reminder that the show will be available on YouTube and podcast by latest tomorrow morning. So if you are watching live, please drop a one in the comments so that I know I'm not talking to myself. And drop a two in the comments if you're watching the recording. As you can see, it's pretty hot in Cape Town today, so I'm not wearing a t-shirt or, or the way it's going to go at this stage. It's far too hot at this stage of the fight. So anyway, today we are talking about first-time property ownership and the things that nobody tells you. I'm hoping that you can learn from my experiences and mistakes, that you are a lot more informed and prepared when you make your first property purchase. Great, we've got people online. That's perfect. So let's talk firstly about that contract or that offer to purchase. Please remember that it's just like every other contract with bigger amounts, but it's still just a contract. Remember that you are agreeing to every single clause in that contract if you sign it. So make sure that you read the whole thing and that you are happy with it. Don't be intimidated by the contract because of the scale of the amount. You can add or remove or amend clauses as long as the contract remains legal. What I noticed is that some estate agents try to push you to signing the offer as it is. They say it's just a standard contract that everybody signs. And that results in some people just signing the contract, thinking that the estate agent knows best and the estate agent has your best interest at heart. Remember that the estate agent is incentivized to get the deal done. And if you add clauses or add things, that might delay the deal or that might result in the deal not happening. So it's not necessarily in the estate agent's interest for you to it's definitely in their interest to just sign, and it's not necessarily in their interest for you to read it and add your own clauses and things like that. So don't be pushed into not reading the contract or not adding clauses that will make your life easier. Don't agree to something that will make your life difficult. Another thing that I noticed is sometimes what happens is maybe the seller is immigrating or leaving the city, and they also want to sell you other stuff like their furniture or curtains or their appliances. If you also want to buy movable stuff within the house, rather do that outside of the contract of sale for the house itself. The reason being is that for a few reasons, but one is that in the contract of sale, that could just increase the commission that the estate agent owes, because whatever that percentage is, or 5 or 10%, now you have to pay more because you've included somebody's washing machine or whatever else in the contract. So rather put that in a separate contract. Also, if you negotiate separate, rather have a separate negotiation for that, because what you don't want to happen is you think the seller thinks the curtains are worth 20 grand and you think the curtains are worth 10 grand. And because of that disagreeing on curtains, you can't come to an agreement on the full contract, and now you lose the house of your dreams because you disagreed on the price on the curtain. So rather have that as a separate agreement, and it's totally separate from your contract of sale for the building. Something also to consider is that are the current building plans lodged with the council? Because what happens is people do renovations on the house, and sometimes they don't get, they don't get approved plans for these renovations. So what would that result in is, now you want to buy the house, you might need to spend money getting those plans submitted, or even worse, if the council doesn't approve those plans, you have to spend money demolishing a part of the house that's not been approved. And then you also end up with a small house. So you need to look out for that. Another thing that nobody looks for is, what is the condition of the roof? Because normally you walk into a house when you're doing a viewing, you look at the rooms, you look at the yard, you look at the garden, everything that's at eye level. Nobody ever thinks of checking the state of the roof. And the roof could be damaged. Now, I'm not for 1 second saying, while you're going to look at every house, tell them, can I please go and climb on the roof to see how the roof looks? Because that's a bit dangerous. But replacing a roof is expensive. So there is an option to get a company to do an assessment of the house for you. So they can do an assessment of the house, checking that the roof is intact and the keys, all these other things that they can check just to make sure that your house is. And if you are under pressure to buy, you can include that as a suspensive condition in your offer to purchase. So you could say, I'm purchasing the house on condition that I'm happy with the report from the professional on the state of the house, as an example. You can use different words, but you get what I'm saying. A reminder that I'll be responding to all the questions at the end, but please add your questions now so that I don't miss any of them. So moving on a little bit from what we were discussing earlier, a lot of people talk about the value of the house and then they want to check the municipal value. Please remember that the municipal value has almost nothing to do with the actual market value of your property. The municipal value is calculated by a value. What the council does is they get a general value of all the buildings in the area, and then they work it out on a per square meter basis. So they divided your house might be smaller, but have a garage, and the house next door might be slightly bigger, but don't have a garage. You can't measure it the same way. For example, also if a property in your area has a double garage and you have no off-street parking, your property value should be very different. But you might have the same square meterage so from a municipal value they'll be the same. But if you're a buyer, you're not going to pay the same price for that. Similarly, if you have a 4-bedroom house and other people have a 3-bedroom house, but it's in the same square meters, the municipal value will be the same, but you're not going to pay the same for a 4-bedroom house that you pay for a 3-bedroom house. So remember not to take the municipal value as golden, as in what the value of the property is. Once you get into, or you've made the offer and maybe your bond has been approved, remember that the transfer process can take some time. It can take very long in some instances. So I'll give you an example of my house that I bought many years ago. So I moved into we probably signed the agreement in like September. I moved into the house in December, but the transfer only happened in March. So from December to March, I had to pay occupational rental for those few months. To me, that felt just like throwing money away because that wasn't going towards my bond. And I'm embarrassed to say that at that time, I didn't understand the transfer process. So I was upset. I complained to the bank. It's like, why do I have to pay for other people's delays? Why do I have to pay for their delays? As I got wiser, I realized that the delays can happen for many reasons. And most of the time, it doesn't happen because of the bank. Sometimes it's because of things that need to happen, or the deeds office. And the deeds office is where the property gets registered in your name and the old property owner's name gets removed. So my bank was not to blame. Also now, during COVID, what's happening is that when there's a positive case in the deeds office closes. And then they have to do those things to clean up. And what ends up happening is that might also increase the time between when you sign the contract or when you move in and when the building actually gets transferred in your name. Something that's also worth trying is when you are applying for a bond or when you have a bond, try to negotiate with a bank that you're applying, that approve your bond, to use the same attorneys that are doing the transfer of the property to also do the bond registration. The reason for that is you might be able to get a discount from those attorneys. So what I would first do is I'd first contact the transferring attorneys and ask them if I could get a discount, if I got the bank to give them the bond registration work as well. And if they say, yes, great stuff, you might save some, because remember those fees are big. And the worst part is some banks don't finance transfer costs of bond registration fees. So you may or may not get that finance. And so if you can't get it financed, you have to pay that out of your pocket. So if you can get them to reduce that fee, great stuff. And it's also important to have sufficient cash set aside. A reminder to please include your questions in the comment section, and I'll look at it towards the end. Shifting on from the property deal and all those things to actually owning a property. Remember that owning a property is very different to renting. If you rent, if something breaks, you might be able to get a landlord to fix it. If you own a property, it's now your responsibility. So if you can learn some basic handyman skills, that will help. If you know how to use a drill and you know how to maybe hang a curtain or something to that effect. And also have someone you trust who can fix things, who charges a reasonable price. So rather get recommendations from friends and family, other than, let's say, a hardware store, because hardware stores can be paid by contractors to recommend them. They're not always good or value for money. Friends and family are more likely to be honest with you, and you can also go and check their work. You can check the contractors' work at those people's houses. Another thing that probably sounds quite strange, but some natural light can make all of the difference. And you can ask, what are you talking about natural light? So my neighbor's house and my house are basically exact replicas. But their house is extremely cold in my house in the winter, and my house is warm in the winter and pleasant in the summer. The only difference is I opened up the space to let natural light come in, and they actually closed off the space to add another room, and no natural light comes in. Even in the summer, the house is cold. So look out for things like that. Things to also look out is damp is a major problem. You can't always just paint over damp with waterproof paint and hope that it doesn't come back. There's most likely an underlying issue that needs to be solved. Also check when you're going out to view houses, if there's a fresh coat of paint, it might, not always, but it might be hiding some damp. So, and you only find that out afterwards, which is a bit annoying. So the thing about the property also, and owning a property and when you're living in a property, is you learn a lot more about your property and what you like and what you don't like by actually living in that property for a while. That's why I always say don't make massive renovations until you've understood what you like and what you don't like. So it depends on what's massive renovations. Maybe it's updating the kitchen or the bathroom. It's not necessarily massive renovations, but if you're swapping things around, moving your rooms to kitchens and bathrooms, that's massive renovations. And if you make all those renovations before understanding what you like, you could be spending lots of money and end up with something that you don't actually like. At that stage, it's too late to go back. Let's talk a little bit about furnishing your first home. If you can afford to, try to invest in good quality appliances. Pay up a little bit. I'll give you an example. I've lived in my first home for over 10 years, and I was lucky enough to invest in a good quality fridge, TV, microwave, and washing machine. The fridge, microwave, and TV are still going strong. My washing machine had a 10-year warranty, and because the 10 years has passed, it needed to be replaced. I ended up buying lower quality appliances to save some money on some other things, and I've ended up having to replace so many toasters, so many kettles. The stove and the oven also need constant repair because I didn't invest in good quality up front. So that's something that I regret. Let's go through some questions if there are any. There aren't any questions, so I don't know if that's good or bad, but if you can maybe try and squeeze one in. If we can't, please remember the show will be available on YouTube and on podcast by latest tomorrow. If you are watching the recording on YouTube or podcast and you feel that this has added value to you, don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. Thank you, everyone, for watching. The next episode is most likely going to be an interview. I won't give too much information away yet because I want to just make sure that they confirm that they'll be attending. But thanks so much for joining for another episode of Two Ways to Skin a Cat. Bye-bye.